Hi, welcome to Black Economics TV. Today we take on the subject of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Three women come together, Dawn, Eve and Victoria, to discuss her arrival on the scene with the British royal family and what happened after that.
Hello, ladies, and hello, everybody. Welcome to Black Economics. We have two ladies with us today who are going to speak about Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, very hot topic at the moment, and we have a lot to say. So I'm going to give a chance to both of the lovely ladies to introduce themselves, and then we will start. Eve?
Okay, so my name is Eve Anderson. I'm a consultant. I'm an interim. My background is in HR, and I have over 30 years of HR experience up to senior management level. I've worked in public sector organisations, mainly in councils in London, and I became an interim about a year and a half ago. And I work for a very large council at the moment on an assignment. So that's a little bit about me. It might be good to say that I'm a Meghan fan. So I'll just open up to say where I sit at the moment. I am a Meghan fan, and I'll say a bit more about it in the context of the discussion as we go along. And it's great to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr Victoria Showunmi. I'm an academic at UCL, and my particular area is I'm a feminist, and yeah, I think that's really important to say that, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion. I think that's where I stop, really.
Okay, great. And it is fair that we say that on the whole, we are Meghan fans. So maybe you might consider that a very biased discussion, but from the point of view of Black females, this is how the majority of Black females will feel. And you'll hear our points as to why we feel the way that we feel. Okay, so we're going to go back to the beginning when Meghan burst onto the scene, when we first heard that she was dating Prince Harry. So we're going to talk about how we felt about that and what did we do around that time. I will say that when she came onto the scene, there were rumors going on in the press that Prince Harry was dating somebody, but they didn't say who. And then they mentioned a name, and then there was a picture of them coming out of a restaurant with Prince Harry in a woolly hat. And what I thought was a really beautiful lady walking beside him. I thought, oh, go on, Harry. Harry's, gone up in the world. I hadn't heard of Meghan before that. So as you do, you start looking her up, you Google her name, and you discover that she was in a series called Suits, a legal series. So I made it my mission to find out more. So I started watching Suits, didn't I? At the time it was on UK TV, one of the Sky channels was showing it. So yeah, I started watching from series 1. I thought, well, Harry's done well, Harry's done good. So that was my first impression. And it was fascinating to see how the press were treating this, because, as you can imagine, they got very excited, didn't they? Because they thought, oh, Harry's dating, and this is a new one. They'd followed all the other women, and here was a new one that was being kept on the down low, because it seemed that Harry was dating this lady for about three or 4 months before the press got wind of it. So that was a very interesting time, I've got to say. Over to you girls.
Well, if we go back to, as you said, when the story of Harry and Meghan actually broke, I'd never watched Suits. I'd heard of it, I've never watched it. And so when I heard the name didn't mean anything to me. And I thought, okay, he's seen someone. And yes, when the pictures started to come out, I thought, wow, she's beautiful, really, really beautiful. I thought, yeah, Harry, you captured yourself a beautiful black queen there. So I was a bit excited. Yeah, I was excited. And I think the talk of friends and acquaintances and so forth about this was like, if there was anyone in the royal family that was going to marry someone that was of another ethnic group, we thought it would be Harry, and we all sort of said the same thing. It'd be Harry. So it's like, it wasn't a shock, but seeing them together, I was like, wow, the boy done good, very, 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 very nice. So yes, and then started to Google a bit, find out a bit about her. But the thing that really got me from the beginning is that, when things started to emerge about, their common interest is a lot of philanthropy, and I thought it was really good that we're interested in the same things around, helping across the world and things that she's done. You can look at her background and how she's been out and been places need support, and she's got that charity side of her, very caring. I thought that was really lovely, and of course people might have other things to say, as if you're not allowed to have a personality along with what you do. So if you're a little bit of like this or this, that, if personality flaws, that's what they like to expose the most. But for me, that spoke volumes to me about her character, and that she was a warm kind of person to be interested in those things. So I was like, one thumb up, and then later on it was like 2 thumbs up. When you find out a bit more about them and how they vibe together, I thought it was great. So yes, that's what I thought in the beginning.
Okay, Victoria?
Yeah, I mean, I think I thought a little bit different, actually. I mean, I wasn't really that interested in who Harry was involved with, because I wasn't that interested in the royal family. So, but I was interested in the fact of Meghan. I never watched Suits. I've still never seen Suits. Not really interested in it because I saw it, the way in which she was portrayed, unfortunately, was just somebody who was seen as something exotic on that particular program. So I was looking at it from a feminist lens, and I was interested in how this was going to play out between Kate as a white female and Meghan as a woman who had a mother who was black. So I was very interested in that. And I remember being in Germany, because I'm in Germany quite a lot, teaching. And so, and the magazines were really kind of using the notion of shadeism to shade out as much as she was, to make her as white as possible. And so many people didn't even know that she had a shade of black in her when the magazines like Vogue and Hello were actually starting to paste her on there. And I did quite a lot of discussions around that with students about, who did, where did she think, what did they think her ethnicity was? And they didn't say she had a black mother or black father at all. They never went on that. So to me, I was really interested in the political aspect of how society was positioning her. And so that really linked in also. I was very interested in who her parents were, and whether it was her father who was white or whether it was her mother who was black. And then, so that's the bits I was very interested in America, was so what's going on and what went on with her mother and her father, for her mother to move the other side of America with her child from the age of about 6 or 7, never to be kind of connected with her father. So I thought, okay, something's clearly gone on there. So I'll stop there because there's more I can say about that. So I wasn't taken in with the fact, yes, Harry's got a beautiful child or anything like a beautiful woman or whatever. I wasn't interested in that because I think all black women are beautiful. So whoever they look like. So I wasn't interested in that. I was interested in, okay, so who and why is the media portraying her as white? That was I was interested in.
Mm. Well, there were some headlines around the time about her coming from out of Compton, wasn't there?
Exactly. Yes.
So they were trying to carry on like she's come from the middle of a gang hood,
Exactly.
And
Well, they got the wrong side of the family there, hadn't they? They thought that was the black side, and when they then realised that it wasn't the black side at all, it came from the white side of her family, they didn't know what to do with that, because the preconceived idea was that it was going to be her mother was from the hood, but actually her mother wasn't like that at all. So that was really, I thought that was interesting.
And what's fascinating about her mother is that even up to now, we haven't heard her voice. We haven't heard her speak. you know, apart from that statement that they gave congratulating the couple, you know, which, you know, was quite formal, we haven't heard a peep.
Well, she said a few things.
Which is quite unusual for Black mothers, because can you imagine? I mean, I'm sure I'd have plenty to say if my daughter was in that position. You know, how many of us could actually keep silent? I mean, she's dignified and, you know, discreet. She's absolutely amazing.
Well, she has said a few things.
What did she said? Because maybe I missed that.
I mean, when her mother, when Meghan gave birth to the baby, and she came over for 2 or 3 weeks, and people, the media in this country, of course, pursued her and thought that she would give up everything to be part of the royal family. What a kind of, you know, luxury that would be. And she said, no, I'm going home. I'm going home to my dog, and I'm going home to my work, which is her yoga. She said, I have no business to stay here at all. That's their life, and that's what they've made of it, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's the type of thing she was saying. She wasn't interested in being part of it at all.
I think really that she struck me as a person that's quite private, or in terms of her the way she's carried herself. And I think that if any conversations were to be had, I think she's the kind of person, in my perception, that should be having them with Harry and Meghan together and supporting them that way, and supporting Meghan as you know, being the mum that's always been there and always will be there. And I think that can be more of a rock to you as a person, rather than being that clarion that calls out the media or goes out into the media and really shows your displeasure at what's being said, because you can always follow the media stories all the time and you can get tired, you can get weary. But I think if you can be a support that's direct to the people that are receiving, you know, the brickbats from the media, I think that's even more powerful, because you're helping that person to stand. And I think for all the furore that's coming from the time from the media when they found out who it was up to today, she has stood, and I'm sure it's been, you know, really tough. And then having a last year of a child, that was really tough. But I do think that having a mother like that, that's, you know, that sort of holds her up, has helped her to stand. That's what I think. And I think it's better for her to be who she is, because sometimes you do want to speak up, and then when you say something, the media jumps on it and makes a different, you know, cuts out pieces of what you say or whatever they do. Why give them that? Why feed them that? Just be strong for that person that you love. And I think I perceive that's what she's doing, and I think that's good.
And I think that must have been a shock for the media, because here is a woman who's been thrust into the limelight. Your daughter is marrying a prince, and you were saying nothing. Whether positive or negative, you're saying absolutely nothing. I bet some of these media people went to even join her yoga class just to hear her voice. You know, I bet some of them tried to befriend her. And somehow not a peep has ever come out about what Meghan's mother has said. Not a peep.
I think that's what a lot of Black women do. I don't think they do speak out as much as perhaps white women do. I think we do keep things. We might talk to our very close friends, but I don't think you see many Black women talking in the media about everything to do with their private life. I just don't think that's something that many of us do. I mean, if you think about some of the people like, for example, Whitney Houston's mother and Aretha Franklin's mother and all people like that, you never saw them in the media talking about their daughters.
Yeah.
It's not something we do. I mean, it's
quite discreet. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Whereas the other side of the family, the white side, completely different. The sister who said, "Oh yeah, I'm coming out with a book." You know?
Dear. Yeah.
What was it? Diary of a Pushy Princess or something? Apparently the book came out a few months ago, by the way. But nobody's talking about that, thankfully. So yeah, the sister decided that she was going to get on the map, and the brother who has the marijuana farm, and then the father, they're all getting in on the act, and all had something to say, and all accepting any amount of money that was being tossed their way to say something about Meghan, whether it was positive or negative. And it was sad to hear that some reporters were actually being offered money to write negative stories about Meghan. And
But some of her
that's really
friends,
sad to hear.
but some of her friends were like that as well, and which I think is quite interesting. So, but the friends which were of colour, they didn't talk to the media, but the white friends were very much up in the face of the media and that. So I think it's about, I mean, I think that plays out in a lot of things in relation to her friends, her family, and what was actually going on.
Yeah, yeah.
I think, Dawn, in terms of the backstory in the beginning when Meghan came on the scene with Harry, was that she'd been introduced by one of her Indian friends in Hollywood or whichever part they were in, and she's the one that brought them together to sort of like say, I've got a friend and I think you'd like her, kind of thing. And I thought from that was done very discreetly, and I think that's how it's played out. The background from that side, the non-white side, has been played out very discreetly in her life, whether it's her friends or family. The other side, I'm laughing to myself because that's all I've done since I've heard their stories, is just laugh and say, you know, do you know how you're making yourself look? That you're making yourself look good, and actually you can't bring a person down if they're not going to buy into your rhetoric. And if whether anything's true or false, you know, it's a person's own story, and it's their right to share their story, not for you to share it in your own way because you think, well, I'm family, so I can say this. Because every time they said anything, it was sounded to be bitter, it was twisted, it was to be negative, and really, there's very few people living in history that don't have even the slightest bit good side to them, and that's how they were making it out. So to me, it just sounded very false, very empty, and very sad, really, to be able to put up with that at a time when it's supposed to be exciting. You're going on a new a journey of your life, and I don't mean exciting to join a royal family. I just mean exciting because you've met someone who cares for you. You can see they cared for each other. You can see the vibe between them, and they were similar age as well. So I thought, oh, you know, they're marrying later in life, you know, to each other, and I thought that was good. And I thought, okay, that's more of a steady, you know, steady rock, as it were, for this. That should have been an exciting time, not to have all the, you know, these things being thrown out by the other side of her family. So really, it even makes Mom look even more dignified, and I think, you know, stoic in terms of the face of all this. She's withstood it, and I think that's what Meghan needs, and I think that's the steel that's inside of Meghan that the press don't see. They just see, oh, okay, then someone from ethnic background, black ethnic backgrounds, and you know, we can say things that we want to say, and people pick up on it. But the thing is that they do not see the steel that's inside of us. And a lot of us, in terms of steel that's inside of us, does come from the maternal aspect. A lot of us, not all of us, but most of us do, because we have very strong mothers, you know, and that's fed a lot into our lives. And I think that's what's fed into her life, and she's still standing. And, you know, and she's also refusing to be silenced. And I think, exactly, I love that. I refuse to be silent. Me too.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah,
but it's her second marriage, though, isn't it? I mean, it's her second marriage. So it's not as though she's learning from her first marriage. It's Harry's first marriage, and it's her second marriage. So she may have been a different person before she was married. You know, at her first marriage, she may have been that more silent person, but her second marriage, she's more kind of silent, more kind of up there, more confident. She knows what she wants and knows what she's doing. So perhaps that contributes to it more. One doesn't know, but it is, you know, it is her second marriage.
Okay. All right. So speaking of marriages, let's move on to the wedding then. What were you doing on her wedding day? Did you watch? Did you set aside the day?
No, I didn't. I went for a run. I got better things to do than sit and watch the TV and watching the royal wedding.
Let's
Let's be honest.
I'm not a royalist as such, but I'm not anti-royal. And actually, I've watched quite a few royal weddings. I watched when Harry's mum and dad got married. I watched that. Well, I said I watched it. I watched watched the rerun of it because actually our church had a sports day, so I did the sports day because when the day off did sports day. But I love to see that. But I actually did watch it. I watched it. And I loved it. I loved it because you're looking for the people that are there. There's a whole mix. I loved when I saw her mum there looking beautiful. I loved her outfit. I love because obviously you want to see what Meghan's wearing. Those of us who like those things. And I thought she looked beautiful. She looked very, using the term regal. I thought it was regal. There's talk about the jewel that she was wearing and who it came from and so forth. And I thought she looked lovely. But also what I liked about it, and I watch these things, a person that's been married before, so I've been married, so divorced, but I'm married. I watch actually the interplay between Meghan and Harry when she actually approached him at the altar, because I wanted to see the interplay between them, because I saw when William and Kate got married too, whether it looked just natural, natural, and whether even during the time they even said anything to each other or just kept the stiffness. And that stiffness wasn't there. And I liked that because there was interplay between them. There was something said between them. They weren't all stiff and just formal, even though it was a formal occasion. And I thought to myself, I like that. I like that because you're choosing to be yourselves, even in this pomp and circumstance of this marriage and the place where it was, chapel and so forth. You're choosing to be yourselves. And I thought that gave me a good feeling about how they felt about each other. So I thought that was good, and it was beautiful, and I loved the choir, and I loved Sheku playing, his instrument. I loved all of that, and I loved, the Bishop Curry doing his message. I loved all of it. I loved it all, and I just thought, yes, let's have a bit of mix come in there. And I went away feeling very happy with what went on to the end. So yeah, it was good. I thought it was really nice mixture of both cultures within there. So I think that was great.
Okay, well, I definitely set aside the day. And I watched it from top to bottom, from early morning with all the preparations right through to the night, watched all the news about it for days afterwards. And it was an amazing day. Everybody seemed to really enjoy it. And, the press were actually on their side at that time, they were all eager for a royal wedding, and all the sections of their newspaper that covered that, 20 pages, royal wedding. It was as royal weddings normally are, but this one was special, I felt, for Black people, because we saw someone of colour joining an institution, joining the royal family. And to be honest, I did kind of worry a little, because I thought, okay, they're all over her now, but you know what the press are like, the tide can turn. Look what they did to Diana. Look what they did to Fergie at another time. Look what they did to Princess Margaret. I remember all those horrible press headlines. And I thought, she might go through that, but I was hoping it wouldn't happen. So the wedding I felt was a special time. The weather was fantastic. As you said, Eve, the program was amazing. She definitely had an inkling in terms of how she could influence what is normally quite a white affair. She really infused it with some color and some life, and that was beautiful to see. And it made me feel that almost as if the Commonwealth were being included. Because, most of the Commonwealth is Black or Asian. The whites are in the minority. And that is not always demonstrated in the institution of the monarchy. We know the history of colonialism and slavery and exploitation, some of which is still going on. But the issue of what's going on in various events in the royal family, sometimes that seems to be untouched by the Commonwealth. I believe that this weekend is Commonwealth Day, and they've got a speech and various celebrity events tomorrow, where the Queen will probably give a speech, or maybe Prince Charles might give a speech about the Commonwealth. And this is where they say, oh yeah, we're all one, we all love each other, and
I mean, I've been to a couple of those. I've been to a couple of those days, and I've also been to I've been to the Queen's party, the Commonwealth, various Commonwealth things, and I've also been to the Queen's anniversary. So I've been to quite a few of those particular events, and I was at the one where Harry and Meghan were, the last one they were at. I was at that one. So they were both at the event I was at, and but going back to the wedding, I mean, I was actually very interested in Charles, and I was interested in Charles, and I was interested in how his position, as he was the one who gave her away, and I was interested in how he didn't connect with her until later on in the wedding. So I'd seen that bit on the news a couple of times. I was interested in what was going on with that part. So I'm always having this analytical lens from a feminist, kind of thinking, okay, so what's actually going on from an analytical lens? So I find it very difficult to sit and watch something and think, oh, this is so beautiful, this is so nice. I want to know what the backstop is and what the backstory is. So I was really looking at Charles and the discussion going around of that. And like I said, I've met Charles and Anne and that quite a few times and different events I've been to. And I remember speaking to him about what's her name, Meghan, at one of the events I was at. So yeah, I didn't have that. To me, they are who they are, and I think I'm somebody who thinks of all the poverty in this country, which is a lot of poverty. And so, and if we don't have to have a lot of poverty if perhaps the monarch gave up some of their wealth, which is a lot, a lot.
Yeah,
I concur. That's a fair point. Yeah, but that's a whole different subject as well, Victoria, isn't it?
It's entwined. It's entwined.
That's a story for a different day, I think.
That's
entwined.
another story.
That could take another few hours.
To me, it's entwined. I grew up, Eve, what you don't know is I grew up in a Jewish, white, German, my mother's German Jewish, my father's Jewish, very much upper class background, with very much learning how to be a lady and all those types of things. So one of the things I do remember when I think about Meghan, she had to learn a lot of the things I had to learn from a child. I was 6 months old, so I grew up in the house.
In terms of going into any family, there's different ways, there's different things how people behave. But the royal family, not just in the UK, but other countries that have royal families in Europe and so forth, they have royal families too. Anyone going in, particularly as a commoner, as a commoner, has a different way that you've been brought up. And if you're not used to it, you're constantly, and I think Meghan probably was also coming from America saying,
she's coming as a commoner.
What's the purpose of me doing that? Why do I have to do such and such? And I do remember one thing at one occasion, which people pointed out in a negative way in the press, where they were on the balcony, and I can't remember, there was a fly past or something. I don't remember it, Doria or Dawn, there was a fly past. And Meghan went to say something to Harry, and he turned back to her and just said to her, you need to, kind of be quiet and watch, And so he turned back round, which he didn't do it in a negative way towards her. He just told her, this is what we do at this moment. So she stopped saying what she was saying. But in the press, it was like, oh, Harry rebuked Meghan. He rebuked her. And I thought, I didn't see him rebuke her. He just said, no, we have to, because she was probably thinking, I wanted to tell something to my husband, but didn't realise at that point, everybody's looking at this. You've got to stay still and watch it as the royals on the balcony. And I thought that was very interesting, because that speaks to what you're just saying, Victoria. She didn't understand that. She didn't know it. But also, what's interesting is, neither did Kate. Kate didn't know all those things. I know that she dated William for a while and then he dumped her and they got back together. But at some point, she had to learn things. But nobody ever said, oh, look at William rebuking Kate for this, that, the other, because she's the English Rose. She's English Rose. But look at Harry. Look at Harry having to slap down this person who's got a black heritage. It was all that kind of, it's the rhetoric that came out from that point, Dawn, which was very poisonous. Because I when I looked at that piece of film myself and saw what he did, all he did was say to me, no, we can't talk now because this is going on. And she was just immediately quiet. She didn't know. But no, the media was like, oh, there's problems here, there's trouble here. He had to rebuke her. And you know what? They're always looking for anything they can on her and that's my big thing as well, Dawn. And I know we're not talking it directly in this conversation, but you know, it was alluded to earlier, the difference between the treatment of Meghan as a commoner coming into the royal family and the treatment of Kate.
Who's also a commoner.
Who's also a commoner, exactly. So the commoner feature can't be it, can it? Because they're both commoners. There's something more about it. And as someone said yesterday on the to do with Monahan, I think it was Gina Yashiri said, you know, if Kate talks about something and she mentioned avocados, oh yes, she's right. They're very nutritious, delicious, and scrumptious and whatever. And then when they talk about when Meghan mentioned the same, he was like, oh, why is she even doing that? Why does she think she has to mention it? You know, it's all that kind of thing. Is like, how dare she open her mouth? And I do think that that's the biggest thing about when you see not just Meghan, but Black women, Black people, is how dare you open your mouth? And that's why I like when she says, I refuse to be silent. Now, I don't know if it's got to do with the first marriage, and you know, okay, that broke up, but I don't know the reasons why. And maybe she was quiet, maybe she wasn't quiet. But I think it's that, how dare you be that uppity, which is the word I put in quotes, they think about us when you dare to talk up. And that's a huge, huge topic in terms of how we are treated as Black people, but also as Black women. How dare you speak up? And she's saying, I refuse to be silent. And I applaud her for that. Why should you be? Don't be silent.
Yeah, but I think there's a mixture of that with her. I mean, I was really interested in to see, and I talked to a lot of my friends at the time, and I said to her what she needs when things were starting to unravel, and I said she needs to find herself a Black woman in England. That's what she needs. And it was about 6 months afterwards, I think, when the baby was born, that she had a Black nanny. I thought, there you go. Having a Black nanny in the actual household is going to sort things out a bit more, because she was losing people. They were leaving, and they were all speaking up about her and all this type of stuff, all the different people in her staff. And then I think just before before they announced it, whatever they did, I don't know, I don't really follow all of it, but she had a Black nanny. And I was thinking, you see, that's what she needed. She needed somebody she could talk to, who she can trust. All the white women she was hanging out with, and all the white women, England is very different to America, very, very different. And she needed to have that. And once she got that Black woman by her side, who she could leave her child with and feel happy with, that was it. That was supportive of her.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually.
You know, because the same as Michelle, wasn't it?
Conversations you might want to have.
Yeah.
And even to find out about the Black experience in the UK.
Exactly.
That's so important, isn't it?
Very, very.
She probably didn't have that initially when she became part of the palace.
Yeah, and it's continuing straightening her hair and relaxing her hair and weaving her hair. You know, in the long term, she knows in the long term it's going to ruin her hair. But all of this, and when the press was talking about why didn't her hair lay straight because one bit stuck out and all this kind of nonsense they were talking about, because they didn't understand. There was no one for them to talk about in relation to her hair. Now, I could tell you a whole story for 10 years, but we're not talking about that. But I understand what she went through. But I understand because I grew up in the house with upper class people. She didn't grow up with upper class people. She came into the house as a fully grown adult, as a working class person in there. And so the aspects of her learning to use a knife and fork and all those types of things which she had to do, she couldn't sit at the table and eat an American way of knife and fork, because that would not happen. She had to learn certain things. She had to speak in a certain way. And of course, she's 36 years of age. She's going to kick off her shoes and say, you know what, I can't be asked with that. That's not going to happen. Not going to happen. So,
I think it's important to say, Victoria, that you were adopted.
I was, yes, indeed. Yes, at 5 months old, yes.
Yeah.
But lived in the big house, the big house type scenario.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, how to use the cutlery from outside in, and all that kind of thing.
I went to elocution lessons.
Would just use a fork, right?
Exactly. But it's elocution lessons, deportment lessons. She would have had to have gone to deportment lessons, like I did, to learn. She had to learn to walk properly. You had to learn how to hold your skirt properly. You had to not wear trousers. All those types of things is what she would have had to have done, and she would have kicked back at that. Because it's different if she was 16, but she was in her 30s. I mean, you know, she's thinking, I'm an adult, I don't need to do that, but she does need to do it because she's in the royal family, and the royal family, that's the expectation.
Don't you think as well, Victoria, Dawn, that there was little from the firm, as it were, little flexibility about welcoming someone who's not from the UK, from outside of the UK and from America, and not understanding of all the UK ways, as it were, you know, just the British ways. That's what I'm talking about. Did they? I'm throwing it out as a question, not for us to answer, but really, if you're going to really be a warm welcome someone, and you're going to find out what their needs are to a certain extent, aren't you? And say, how can we meet your needs to make you comfortable, you and Harry comfortable? And I don't know for a fact. I just don't feel in myself that they wanted to make the effort to even do that for her.
I think they did, you know. I think they did more than we think.
You know, well, with Dr. Victoria, this is my view. So you can give yours in a second. But my view is that I don't feel, this is my feeling, they went out of their way enough to support her. I don't think they did that. I don't think they did. They may say they did, but I don't think they did. So that's my point. I just wanted to make. So you, Victoria, carry on now. That's my feeling. That's what I'm saying. That's my opinion.
Thanks, Eve. And I apologise if I spoke over you. I apologise.
No. I just wanted to finish the sentence. That was all. Okay, carry on.
Yeah, no. I apologise. I mean, I think perhaps they did give her. I think they did try. I think there was an element of try in the concept of how they saw themselves trying. I think they did try to do certain things. I think perhaps they didn't do exactly what she wanted. Because they weren't able to, because there is a particular way of doing things, because it's part of the machinery. But and I do think as well that I think she is perhaps as perhaps more rigid than you think she is. I think there is a bit of rigidity. You know, she is a bit more rigid than you think she is, because I think her flexibility depends on what her flexibility is. We have no idea what her flexibility is.
We have no idea.
Exactly. So I think there is a bit of, I think they did try in the context of they could try, but I think the bit which I would like to add to it, I think the relationship between, possibly the relationship between Kate and her, and I don't mean just Kate and her, but I think the newspapers played that aspect of white woman who's in the plantation house already, and then giving space to the black woman coming into the plantation house. That's the bit we don't talk about, and that's the bit I'm interested in, is that playing there, because, you know, there's one thinking, I'm the woman of the house. All of a sudden you're coming into the house, and now you think you're at the same level as me. That's not going to happen. And I think Kate's guilty of that. I think she's not a bystander. She's clearly complicit.
I agree. I agree. And Kate is my bugbear. I never warmed to her. I've never warmed to her. I just haven't, you know, I just never warmed to her. And, you know, when they decided to go, I thought Kate is a factor in that. And also I feel that Kate would have, again, my feeling and opinion is that Kate would have thought, who is this uppity girl coming along and taking some of my limelight? Because she did take a limelight. And I mean, if you put the two side by side, and you can't compare, you can compare, I compare it. I mean, Meghan is beautiful. She's just beautiful. And you're right, all women are black women, they're all beautiful. But her beauty shines in a way that Kate's does not. It makes Kate look dull. I'm sorry, it does. It makes Kate look dull. When you look at Meghan, see the shots of her, you know, the fantastic shot when she's in the red dress and he was in uniform and they'd gone out for the night to an event. Beautiful, she just shone. But I don't see Kate shining in any pictures. And it's got nothing to do with being an actress. She just has this shine about her. And I think that Kate lost it. I think Kate lost it, and I think there were incidents when Kate lost it, and it was like, somebody's got to go. And they probably thought, you know what, I'll tell you what, we'll go. and you can see with Harry as well, with everything, you know, what happened with mum and all the rest of it. He keeps talking about it. He talked about it the other day when he was with James Corden, and when he went on the open top bus ride. He was trying to look that up, Victoria, an open top bus ride with Harry and James Corden. And I'm telling you, he was talking about my mental health was being destroyed by this whole thing with the media. And also he goes, I had to protect my family. That's how he saw it. I had to protect my family, whatever the backstory was, but there were different things happening. And I think for me, I would say to myself, that Kate was right in the middle of it all. And you see, the difference is Kate is the future queen and Meghan is not the future queen. So therefore, if there's a tussle between the two, Kate knows that she's going to win on that score because she has to be kept happy more. That's what I'd like to say.
Yes, but
she has to be kept happy more.
Yes, but the interesting thing is, and I have no idea, it's none of my business, but that William was the one who decided to have a relationship with one of her friends. So
well, we don't really know if that's true or not. It's kind of
sorry, I'm not aware of this, so I don't know.
No, all you need to do is
all I can say, Victoria, is that I put something on Facebook last year, and it was a picture of Kate after Meghan and Harry had gone, and I saw this picture, and it was this candid shot. They were walking down. William was walking beside. They were at an event. They were at an event, like out and about, and all she had done was just turn her head to the side and had taken this shot. This shot, it was like 3/4, and all I could see in her eyes was sadness. And what I said, as I captioned my picture of Kate and William walking down, I said, this is a very unhappy woman. You can see when you look in her eyes are very sad. And at that point, knowing to myself that I'm sure she's the protagonist with the whole thing about Meghan, I actually felt sorry for her because I don't know why there was a sadness, and I don't know any background information about anything else. I just know in that particular picture, it captured a lot. And I thought to myself, you know what? You've got it all to yourself now because Meghan's out of the picture. So you can shine now and you can be what it was, but maybe it's not all it's cracked up to be. But who knows? Where is there a perfect situation, Dawn? There's no perfect situation. I think the thing that we're debating here today is it fair or unfair, which you think is unfair, how Meghan's being treated, by the firm, by the media, and really that's what we're talking about. But certainly, I think Kate was a protagonist and part of the reason why there wasn't room enough for the two hens in the house.
Well, what about, let's look at, when did the media turn? When did the media really start to turn against Meghan? Because as we said, around the wedding, leading up to the wedding, shortly after the wedding, all of their public events, everyone was always there. It was a big crowd, there was positive press. And then things started to turn in the press. And especially around the time when they were going to Australia, and just after she announced that, they announced that Meghan was pregnant, you would have thought everybody would have been happy and things would have been, glorious for them. And it's as if people they felt they needed to bring that happiness down, temper that. It's as if they started to, well, even before that, they started to compare Kate and Meghan in the press as if they were trying to build up some kind of rivalry. Probably before there was even any rivalry, they started to push this narrative. And then we started, as the pregnancy went along, we started to notice a difference between how they reported Kate before and how they were now reporting Meghan. When Kate was pregnant and Kate would rub her tummy, with the baby inside, they said, oh, she's tenderly rubbing her tummy. When Meghan was rubbing her tummy, it was like, why is she showing off? Why is she rubbing her tummy all the time? And then there were some parts of the public, actually, who was saying, oh, maybe she's not even pregnant. She's got a pillow there. And there was this conspiracy theory going around that she's not really pregnant, or maybe she's got a surrogate. And you couldn't figure out where were all these tales coming from.
Well, you've got to remember, though, Dawn, I mean, and Eve, is that we can sit here and we can talk as women, as we do as Black women, but we also have to recognise, and I didn't grow up in London, and we have to recognise that the rural part of England, and lots of England is 80% white. We all know that, it's 80% white. So the views which are coming from society, a lot of society is very much white, and for them to have somebody okay, to be married, I think they could just about swallow that. To be then to give birth to somebody which is not pure white, as I think that's when the media started to turn, that they're going to have a baby which has the audacity now to have an element of the throne, even though, you know, Queen Charlotte in 1777 was also a black queen.
Yeah.
And that's why I think William chose Charlotte for his daughter's name, even though people
really?
didn't. Oh yeah, because of it linked back to his being a bit of a rebel, because his mother's a bit of a rebel, and Charlotte was the queen. People didn't know she was the queen when they chose her, but I knew who she was. My daughter's called Charlotte, but I didn't name her after that one. I named her after somebody in the civil rights. But I think that's important. So you know, all of a sudden, when you saw the newspapers, they started to talk about the baby, and then people started to talk. The far right and the populist right started to talk about this blood is not. This is not pure blood. This is not pure blood. Even though the Queen is German and the husband is Greek, there's no
Yeah.
such thing as pure blood. They're not English themselves. But that's when
I
it
know.
started to turn. This is really, really interesting, because they started to turn of the fact that this blood is not pure blood. That's when they start. You can see some of the articles on that, and it's really vile. That's when the vileness started to come in, and that's when they should have shut it down. But they didn't shut it down, because we had a conservative government, and because of the hostility within society at the time and now, it continued to fester. So what they needed really is somebody like what's her name, Theresa May, to shut this down and just shut the conversation down. But it didn't, because it built into their rhetoric of this poisonous hostility of the them and us, and this otherness, and unless you're white pure, whatever that means, you don't belong. And that's when I think it started to turn, in my opinion. If you look at the newspapers, because that's what I was studying with my students, you can see where the river started to turn was when she was pregnant. All of a sudden they realized that there's going to be something which is an other inside her, and now we've got somebody else which it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I think right, because of course the black is now multiplying within the royal family. One's married in, one's one is now going to be produced, and another one, hey, that's great, coming along, you know. But I think also, you know, it's not just about the royalness of the royal family, because there's a whole swathe of people who are white in this country who don't want a royal family. They go, oh, the leeches, they got all our money, you know, why do we have to have them? So there's all of that. But the race issue does go across very widely, of course, in this country. We know it already. And of course, when that happened, it was like, oh, new toys to play with in terms of our rhetoric and what we have to say, and your Danny Baker chimpanzee thing. Oh, I didn't mean that. Oh, yes, you did. You know,
exactly.
then you meant it. So all of that did come out. And I think it just brought out the ugliness in people. You know, it did. It brought out the ugliness, but they were dying to say it anyway. There's very few things that people weren't already dying to say that all of a sudden just comes into their mind when they see something. It's already there, but they wanted an outlet for it. And the fact that she was pregnant gave them that outlet, you know, because they just didn't accept her anyway. But the big thing, and then I agree with what you said, Victoria, is that somebody in either the firm or the government should have come around her in some kind of way to assist in this in some kind of way. And it's like she was just thrown to the wolves. That's more or less what happened. And from there, it's just taken more of a dive. And I think that's, and I do also think that something happened last year that precipitated that move from Harry saying, right, I don't think my family are safe. I mean, safe here in this country, so I'm taking them out. We don't know what it is. And I absolutely think something happened that spooked him so much that he thought, you know what, I know what happened to my mom, and it's not going to happen here. Whatever it was, media, some crazy person, I don't know who it was, but something happened. And I always distill it back to this with Harry and Meghan. I'm happy for them. They love each other. I can see that they're building a family. But to me, this is it. You cannot superimpose your view, Queen, Prince Philip, Charles, whoever you are, between husband and wife in terms of them choosing what's the best thing to do for their family. You need to do that for your own family, but if they've chosen between themselves and they have the right to do that, about even if it cuts across everything the monarchy stands for, which is like running everybody's life generally, You can't cut between that. He did the right thing, and he decided no more of this. We're going to just leave here and go over to where her country is. And something precipitated that. And he did talk about his mental health last weekend or so with James Corden, and it was really interesting. We actually talked about it. Something in his mind said, I can see where, and he says, I can see where this is going, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen to my wife like it happened to my mother. And with his mother, it was the baying hounds of the media chasing them down, wherever they go. That was the big factor in what happened with the accident. So for him, something precipitated it, and he did the right thing and says, enough is enough. And to me, that's the main thing. Harry's sticking up for Meghan in all of this. It's the most important thing to me.
Beautiful to see, actually.
I applaud him. So that's it. Whoever wants to set the one, even the Queen, it's none of her business. It's his business. But we've probably got some other things we're going to talk about, Dawn, so I'll leave that for there. It's their business as husband and wife to look after their family.
I remember being very hurt myself when I saw that picture that Danny Baker put up with the couple with the chimpanzee babe. All Black people would have seen that. Most of us would have been hurt. And we like that. We identify with when people are undergoing racism, and it feels as if they're doing it to us, you know? So it's a bit like we're being jabbed in the heart every time we see that, every time we hear anybody say anything racist, like when that guy Eamon Holmes on this morning said, oh, Meghan is acting very uppity, you know, just because she did something sensible. Why did you use that word? And, you know, and ITV did not pull him up for that. I think it's just disgusting that they get away with these words. You know, these things that hurt us. And then they wonder why we suffer more with health conditions and COVID, because we're bearing this pain all the time. Not only when it happens to us, but when it happens to other people. It's as if it's happening to us, you know, and even celebrities who have made it. You know, they got millions in their bank. But when they hear about these kind of things, and they even suffer it themselves, it's painful. It hurts.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I do think, though, Dawn and Eve, I think that Meghan was a little bit naive. I think that I don't think she understood the complexity of Black racism in the UK. It's a sophisticated type of racism that you don't see in America. Very, very difficult. And I write about that. I'm writing about that more at the moment. There's a chapter which is called The Tangled Web, which is about that. And this, and I think that's what knocked her for six. And I travel a lot, really dealing with the type of racism in England. The United Kingdom is very different to America, and it's this kind of incestuous kind of way of behaving, which is just very not like in America. And I think that's more likely it spooked her more, because she thought that perhaps she might have thought that she could handle it because she knows what race is in America, but race in England is very, very different. And we are trying to in some ways, but we try then we stop, because unfortunately there's people who look like us who are very happy with the way things are regarding what racism is, because they're benefiting from it. But when there's some of us who speak out and say, you know, this mustn't be like this, or whatever you want to say, because even when Michelle Obama, I mean, that's why I remember there was an academic in what do you call it, LSE, and he'd at the time Michelle Obama was First Lady. It was in the first 6 months of when she was First Lady. There was this article out in the newspaper about beauty. You may have seen it. And an associate professor there had done some research. He'd been funded with some research to identify that the most ugliest people in the world are Black women. And he was looking at psychometric aspect of drawing of women's images of their faces. And he was drawing that. And of course, they were making links to Michelle Obama. So all what Meghan had gone through, I'd been analysing this before with Michelle Obama. So to me, if she'd have really kind of looked at what had happened with her, and she'd have seen how it played out in the UK, she wouldn't have been surprised, because it happens like the UK is like that. It's just a very, very sophisticated and vile situation, which is really, they don't get to grips with it because it just is allowed to be the elephant in the room, and all they do is put a curtain on it and more sticking plaster on it, and until it actually bursts once or twice, then they might think, oh yeah, we need to do something about it, and then they take it all up again.
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
I would say, Victoria, as well.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine.
No, it comes to no. All I was going to say, just to, I agree with what you're saying entirely. All I was going to say is that the difference, I would say, as it comes to my mind, the image is this: the racism between in America and the racism in the UK is like, you know, in America it's like a punch in the face. That's the racism. This is a punch in the face. That's what it is. But in England, it's like them pulling the rug from under your feet. You have a false sense of security and think, I'm kind of accepted, and all of a sudden, bang, you're down, flat on your face. How did that happen? That's the UK way. And which one can you deal with more? Depends on which one you're used to. So it is that kind of Victoria where, you know, we're used to it, how it works here. Sometimes if you go to America, I've been to America a number of times, and you know, when I see things on TV about the American racism, it is like a punch in the face. You know, it's like, ow,
it is, but you can deal with that.
Yes,
it's the psychological.
You kind of expect it. You're in the
Exactly.
fight. You're in the ring. You're in the ring. But no,
Exactly.
over here they invite you to their parlor, and then they pull the rug from under.
And that's why there's so many people.
She wasn't ready for that.
And that's why there's so many people which are in psychiatric units here, whereas in America they're not in psychiatric units. And that's the difference, because ours is, surely you're imagining it. You must be really, really, how can that be the case?
Yeah.
And you ended up sectioned. And she could see she was losing her mind, because she was also suffering from mental health issues. And she was slowly losing her mind, and her husband had already lost his mind because he was already had mental health issues. She was also suffering from mental health issues. She knew that she'd end up in a mental state if she stayed here.
Carried on. And you know what, as I said, as a husband and wife, they made a decision, they made a plan, they executed the plan, and good for them. It's their life. They're not owned as animals in the farm, or the queen, and the queen's an old lady. She's very old. I don't wish her bad health, but she's very old now. And these are youngsters who are getting on with their lives. Let them get on with their lives. And
he's always going to be connected, unless he completely and utterly, which he hasn't.
Well, the thing about it is, this is what comes to my mind also, Victoria and Dawn, is that, you know, they haven't left the royal family. They are still in the royal family.
Well, he is. Well,
she is by marriage. That makes her part of the royal family by marriage. That's how it goes. That's how they get queens and stuff, by marriage, you know. So the fact is, she's also royal. He's royal. That's not going to change. That's the way it is. And the fact of the matter is, you can strip them of what you like. That's how that goes. That's very spiteful. You can say they live in another country. They are still part of the royal family, and that still sticks in the craw of the media. That's why any little thing they can pick up and turn into a weapon, they're going to use it, because they can't stand the fact that she's in the royal family. Too bad. She is.
Well, the biggest thing is that they have 2 children in them. They're going to have 2 children now, which are part of it, and that's it. So, anyway.
I think it came to a head when we all realized there was something wrong, when they were in Africa and they gave that interview a few days before the tour ended. They were in South Africa. And Meghan was actually quite tearful while she was doing that interview. That's when we realized, oh, you know, they're not happy. Something's got to change here, you know? And that was a shock to many people, because they thought, oh yeah, she's married the prince, you know, they should be happy, they should be grateful. But there was a lot going on underneath that we didn't know about, you know? And then when they came out and said, oh, we're going to sue the newspapers for, you know, I think there were two court cases they mentioned while they were away, and everybody was saying, no, they shouldn't have done that there. They should have waited till they come back. But the interviewer asked her, are you okay? You know, and I think that's when she started to well up, because nobody seemed to be asking them if they were okay. And she had to be real, you know, none of the stiff upper lip. She had to be real and say, well, thank you for asking, you know, and you felt her pain. And we wondered, how they were going to get out of this, because none of us want to see anybody unhappy. And we were happy that she was in the royal family, but we all did feel that something had to change for their own mental health, for their own happiness. We felt something needed to change. So we're up to present day now. They've made a 2-hour interview with Oprah Winfrey, which I'm sure, by the way, all of the royal family would love to have done. I'm sure Will and Kate would love to sit down with Oprah. And Beatrice and Eugenie, I'm sure they'd love to do that, But no, Harry and Meghan were asked, and this is the second time of asking apparently, and they said yes. And she said it's a privilege to be able to say yes. They're actually their own persons now. They can do their own PR. They can do whatever interviews they want. And I'm happy for them. And I think that's the way it should be. But then it seems that the palace had other ideas and started sending out stories about, Meghan used to bully staff in 2018, by the way. Meghan did this. She wear a pair of earrings that was sent by killers. I mean, it just all sounds so petty. And then instead of the palace trying to dampen the story down, they inflamed it further by saying, we're going to start an investigation. And somebody on Twitter said, this is how the palace puts out fires with gasoline. This is how you make the situation worse. It's just been unbelievable what's been happening the last few days. And the interview's been shown tomorrow, but it's been like a war zone between the palace and Meghan and Harry.
And I would say on that score, Dawn, in terms of, I watched The View. I don't know if you watched The View, the US The View, which is with Whoopi Goldberg, and so forth on there. And I watched that on Facebook. And there's Meghan McCain, who's her husband, her father, is a very obviously famous Republican Party person, and her father was a famous late Republican. And I never agree with anything she has to say. Very hardly any time she says anything I agree with anything, and I'm always going, why is she on there? Just things like that I say to myself. But yesterday, she actually, if I could have stood in front of her and gave her a round of applause, I would have done. Because they came to her first, and the first thing she said was, and I'm just going to paraphrase this, it's embarrassing for the royal family to do what they've done, is launching this investigation, which is from something so far back. And isn't it interesting? It's now when this interview is about to come out, it's so obvious what they're doing, and it's embarrassing and it's shameful. That's what she was saying. She said it a bit longer than that, but that's what she was saying. I was like, I was stunned. I thought, I agree with you. That's exactly it. This gameplay, the gameplay that they're playing, it's like they're playing drafts, and Harry and Meghan are playing chess. They're doing a whole different thing, a sophisticated life. And you just thought, well, it's drafts, isn't it? So I can just jump over these pieces as much as I want above the board. So I'm just going to smack bang say, and of course the piece they put out where they said, as an HR professional now, bringing my HR into this, HR is going to be investigating this. And I'm an HR professional, and also a friend of mine, we were communicating yesterday about this. We both said the same thing. In HR, if something's 3 years ago, you're out of time. Why didn't you bring it then? Because normal policies around these grievances or whatever it is, you have to bring it within a certain time and then they investigate it. We're not going to investigate things that are historic 3 years ago. Because it happened 3 years ago, you should have raised it then. But also on The View, they were saying, again, somebody on The View, the panelists were saying, yes, they're upset that she sent emails at 5 o'clock. And that person said, I do that. I send things at that time. I suppose people must be upset with me. And, and as Junior Sherry said yesterday, quite eloquently, yes, she sent it at 5 o'clock. But she goes, I bet if she sent it at 11 o'clock, they'd say, those people, us black people, aren't they lazy? Sending things at 11 o'clock. Why not send it earlier? She just could not do right for doing wrong, or doing wrong for doing right, whichever right for doing wrong. It doesn't matter which way it played out. It doesn't matter that it was 3 years ago. It doesn't matter that she has her way. It doesn't matter in terms of how she says things, does things. It doesn't matter. And also, you had this cross message, which is from the office of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They still have this office thing that communicated saying, we refute these allegations entirely, not Meghan's message, but their own one saying, none of this happened. That's what they said. None of this happened. So there's again now this tension in the firm between one part of the firm saying something and the office that actually supports the Duchess and Duke of Sussex, because they're still that, you know, saying something different. It never happened. Now, who looks silly? Not Harry and Meghan. The royal family looks silly. And even doing what they did, it's not going to make any difference. I don't know the content of this interview. It's an interview. That's what it is. You know, you'll find out afterwards if anything was said salacious or if it was libelous or whatever it is. Wait till it comes out and then have a look and say something. But to do it leading up to it was so obvious and really amateur. They just made the firm look shabby and silly. And everybody's seeing it now and thinking, well, that's a bit, you know, that's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? Now, the thing is that it's not going to make Harry and Meghan want to come back. It's not going to make anything like that happen. They tried even through her child to say, how could she take her child and Harry, take the Queen's great grandchild away? And also they were saying in the media, I was just read that, Dawn, where they were saying when they went to America, oh, it's not fair on Archie because Archie's away from his cousins now, who he should be playing with as a royal baby. They also mean William's children are the royal baby. You know, do you think baby Archie's thinking, where's my cousins? I don't think he's even thinking that. He's playing everything they will use. She can't do right for doing wrong because they're just going to play the rhetoric that way. It doesn't matter which way it is. If they're happy and they go on to the future, they never say, oh, well, you know what? In hindsight, they made the right decision. No, they're just going to be going on and on and on. And also, it plays out because we can never get away from the fact that and a lot of it has got a racist background to it in the UK, definitely.
I agree with what you're all saying. So I don't think there's anything else for me to say.
All right then. Well, I think you've rounded that up really well, Eve. So thank you so much for that, and thank you, Victoria, for your input as well. I think it's been really enlightening, and we'll come back together again to discuss the interview, the big interview, which is showing tomorrow in the USA and in the UK on Monday.
Okay, I'll look out for that.
Thanks, Eve. Thank you, Dawn. I love the colour you're wearing, Dawn. Very nice. Yeah, thank you.
Fashion and furnishings.
VU Designs. Fashion and furnishings.
Fashion and furnishings.
VU Designs. Fashion and furnishings.